All right. Am I streaming?
Yeah, there you are,
Hello, hello, hello.
my guy.
How are you? Let me find the best lighting. I was in the office upstairs, but let me perhaps put it right here. Cool lighting is better probably on this side. All right. I'm gonna just sit on the floor downstairs.
That.
Hmm.
Well,
What's good?
let me give you a proper introduction. For
Hmm.
those of you who don't know Iddris, he is a digital architect. He's done consulting work for Uber, Instagram, Google. He's designed augmented reality experiences for Jaden Smith with Kanye West, most recently Rihanna. Um, he's very popularly known for creating the world's first smart retail store alongside the late great Nipsey Hussle. Currently, he's the founder and creative director at Spatial Labs. Um, yeah, man. Idris, thanks for coming on, good brother.
Yo, everybody, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, so I saw you just wrapped up the Fenty Social Club. Is that a dream come true or just par for the course at this point?
I mean, it's Rihanna, so it's like, I think working with Rihanna on any capacity is always like, a real good experience. You know what I mean? It's like for a lot of people, it's like, whoa, to work with like Beyonce or like Rihanna will be super huge. And I mean, for me too, like, that was mad dope. But I think, what even inspired me even more, and I was like, whoa, is like, I started Spatial Labs last year, and our roster of people we've worked with, I mean, from Prada to Versace to, you know, 2 Chains, like, in just 1 year, an immersive visual studio company that was founded by like, a black slash African kid, to go on to work with all these people in just like under a year was crazy. I was like, whoa, we had like 1.5 million people view that AR experience. 1.5 million people came to the website over, the course of 24 hours. So yeah, nah, it was definitely like a dream country, and to do that with Riri, like, yeah, it was that.
That's incredible, man. And I'm sure the visibility for you and the work that you're doing probably skyrocketed as well. I mean, once you have those type of names on your resume, I mean, the sky's the limit. Um, and you mentioned Spatial Labs, how you rolled it out, launched it last year. Tell us more about the mission because you have a lot of different things going on, and you're passionate about a myriad of things. But what's the mission of Spatial Labs?
Yeah, I mean, Spatial Labs is really my fault. I'm not like multitasking. I'm just about to post this on Instagram, so like letting people know to join.
No, no doubt.
So Spatial Labs is essentially an immersive visual studio slash agency that has experience and creates a lot of volumetric content, right? So what is volumetric content? For those of you that might not be familiar with the term, there's a spectrum of immersive experiences, right? So there's one side which is like AR, and then on the other side of the spectrum you have like VR, right? Um, Everything else in between can be defined within XR, which is experiential reality. By the way, let me just clarify. So AR is augmented reality. AR is about overlaying things in your world in a more natural way. VR is about isolating you and taking you to a completely different space, right? So, as you were even talking about empathy and design thinking earlier, it's much more easier to create immersive experiences using AR from the perspective of empathy than it is to create VR from the perspective of,
How so?
well, see, the thing is, these two platforms are very, very huge and they're very, very similar, right? But the thing with VR is it blocks you. It basically voids your real environment. It says whatever this is, we not respecting that. We just, putting you in this virtual environment, and it has a lot of merits. But it's a known thing that like people that experience VR and get scared or something like that, they never want to try it again. The same can be said about people that experience VR experiences, um, and they don't know where they're going. They don't know where to walk. None of this thing. VR adds senses, a lot of new senses, but the antithesis of it is it makes you it gives you new experiences, but it requires you to leave all the rest of your majority of your senses
Mm,
away.
yeah.
AR is about overlaying and saying all the senses that you have, your ability to, your cognitive coherence to be able to, be aware of your surroundings, and adds on top of that, right? So it's about taking what you have plus some other. VR is about adding ones that it's like they're both superpowers, right? But yeah, back to like, Spatial Labs, we create a lot of immersive AR experiences using volumetrics. And what I was saying before was volumetrics are pretty much any 3D asset or content
Mm,
that's displayed in either AR or VR.
yeah.
And really, I started it because I wanted to be able to take these high level things that like are either used in a way that no one cares about, or two, are explained in a way that disinterest people, and say, rather than go work on this technology like for, Microsoft or Google or something, how about we partner with cultural influencers where we can have a higher and greater penetration. And what I said before is not like shade, like, oh, I don't want to work with these tech companies, but unless like I'm working with individuals like yourself that really understand the importance of these technologies being attributed to the culture, it's very difficult to have a high penetration in terms of your impact. A typical example of that is what just happened a couple days ago between, Babyface and uh,
Eddie
uh,
Riley.
Teddy Riley. What just happened the other day, right? They crashed Instagram at like 400 to
Yeah,
500,000
I think
live streams.
500K is the max for IG Live.
And so in that context, it wasn't that the platform wasn't capable of doing that. It was that for the wide known of people that do live streams, the max cap that they get is no more than 100,000 or 200,000 at a time. There was no circumstance where there's going to be somebody over 500,000. Oh, that's what y'all think. But these are legends. These are, you know what I mean? So there was no one at that building advocating before, for those things to happen, until the minority affected the majority.
Mm,
That's when it was cool. So with Spatial Labs, it's really about thinking about all these things and how we can use volumetric content, how we can use technologies like AR, VR, XR, experiential reality, to really just bridge that divide, right? And
yeah.
really create a system and an ecosystem for the culture, especially in arts, entertainment, and fashion, to showcase our works to the world in a way that puts us at the forefront instead of getting left behind.
Oh, that's deep, man. I tried VR a couple times and it totally wiped out my equilibrium. I was just like, I
Yeah,
don't
because
know
you're
if I
not
want to keep
aware.
doing this. I was boxing this dude. I was getting knocked out. I was like, the hell with this VR shit. I'm trying to go to the AR side of things next. But I think it's dope how you talk about ownership
Mm.
and you partner with these brands to find, or these legends to find a deeper penetration. Is that the business model? Is that how you're generating revenue? Is just through partnerships and collaborations?
Yeah, 1000%. One of the things that Nipsey and sorry, I slept downstairs yesterday in the living room. Um, I have a problem with, like, I just don't know why I don't sleep
Yeah,
in the
you
bedroom.
have like a whole rainforest behind you. Do you have the sounds
Oh
going
yeah,
too?
my plants. These are my children and my books.
Beautiful.
And there's more stuff upstairs. But yeah, one of the things that drew my energy and Nipsey's energy together was, the sense of ownership, right? And what Nipsey instilled in me was the importance of cultural ownership, and then the responsibility that I had to both my heritages, right? And what does that mean? It means that I am a first generation African kid that was raised in Compton. I serve, and I am a representative of the Black community, as well am I a representative of the African community. Nipsey instilled that into me, to never forget that and to always advocate for that. I also instilled the importance of technology to impact
Mhm.
into him. So it was like the duality of both of those. So yeah, 1000% ownership is everything that we do. In terms of Spatial Labs currently, yes, 1000% between the collaborations that we're doing. That is part, I would say about 30 to 40% of the revenue that we're doing. It's also a creative agency, so we do a lot of creative, edutainment, entertainment based experiences, consultations, stage design.
Yep.
We're dropping, I'm not gonna mention who it is, but I'm gonna just give a hint. It's the largest rap group in the world right now. And then we're
Group
also
or
dropping,
label?
huh?
Group or label?
Group. Well,
Okay.
label too, both of those, they both. So I just really narrowed it down, and then we're also going to be dropping a whole immersive experience with the largest female artist in the world. So and it's
Beautiful.
not Rihanna. I just gave y'all a hint. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think
But
we
yeah,
know
so
who
we
it is if you're using our context clues. If you know about
yeah, yeah.
rap culture, you might be able to put two and two together.
Right. So
So
we do a lot of consultations for companies outside of just creating immersive visuals. We do digital album covers, we do 3D scanning. We're actually opening a new volumetric studio because we really are going to pioneer what digital artistry means, right?
mm,
Um, this coronavirus time, COVID-19 has made us all sit back and realize how the infrastructure was not scalable. It wasn't adaptable. For as many people that have started record labels and made millions of dollars to not have built any form of ecosystem, where if COVID had happened, oh, we have a whole pipeline for artists to keep making money. Oh, we have a whole pipeline for artists to perform virtually, and da, 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 da. Everyone's racing right now to think of what's next when we should have been doing this. That's the wave that Spatial Labs has been on. So to answer your question, yes, about 30 to 40% of our revenue comes from creating experiences, and the other is from consulting on creative projects with large scale artists to redefine what their brand is. To where if COVID-19, knock on wood, but like, if we went through another wave of it or whatever it is that was after, artists will still be able to arbitrage off of their artistry and connect with their fans.
totally. And I think it's really funny how everyday people are expected to have this emergency fund, but during COVID-19, we pull back the curtains and realize all these major corporations don't have emergency funds themselves, and everyone's exposed. But I think
Everyone.
that's a perfect segue into design thinking and culture, part of this conversation, where I saw recently you did an interview with Culture Hub and you discussed solving worldly problems with technology and access to knowledge. And so I know you've worked with a ton of tech giants, cultural icons. Take us through your design thinking process and how do you decide like which problems to solve?
Yeah, sorry, I just like I'm literally like posting this on the story,
You should have told
so
me. I
more
was
people
like, gang, gang, gang.
right? We have 136. Yeah, so I mean, my design thinking process is really rooted in one, empathy, right? So no matter what idea I'm creating, at whatever stage I'm in my ideation process, I filter things in two places: aspirations and necessity. So what are aspirations? Aspirations are changes I would like to see in the world, which are subjective, right? And then the necessities are objective things that I can use my skill sets to improve, right? So, is can we design a better sweater, or can we design a better, coffee mug or a coffee cup? Yes, 1000%. Is that a necessity? No. Is famine killing a lot of people every year? Yes. Is Flint still, the water systems, affected? Yes. And compromised? Yes. Those are, so I split things into two. And based off of though that prioritization, um, my mom keeps going. Based off of those two
Is she
prioritizations,
on?
that's where I
Is your
start my
mom on?
design. No, no, no. She was just like, I think she
Oh,
might be. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so splitting those between aspiration and necessity. And then I start with conceptualization. And then I go to ideation. And then from ideation, I go to uh, problem solving. Then I am at any stage in all my products, then I do some sort of like focus group, between a couple of people. And then depending on the issues that they bring up, I bring it back up to the ideation again. And then I repeat that process until it is the idea has at least discriminatory issues or something. And then we prototype and then we present, right? So for me, it really starts with one, just so the first step is really separating in a bucket. Is this problem solving idea, identifying the problem, and then is the problem an aspiration or a necessity? And then
mm,
from there, if it is a necessity, starting with ideation, conceptualization, and then from there, prototype, iterate over and over again, until it meets the our ethos, Spatial Labs, sort
standard.
of
Seal of
yeah, like
approval.
seal of approval, and then distribute and then keep iterating. And I think it's really important that you even brought that question up, because I think within the, especially Black community, we lack in that area. We lack in design thinking, right? And as somebody that reads so many books, the James Turrells, and then the Basquiat's, all of these people of the world. You think of Bauhaus, and after World War II, a huge shift happened in Germany, where they started creating a whole design ethos as a principle for the whole of Germany, and that's how Bauhaus was established. And they created all these design principles that are still used today. And I think about so many things that have happened throughout Black history and African culture and history,
Man,
whether that was slavery, whether that was segregation, whether that was whatever. Like, we never came up with any universal design thinking principles or ethoses.
yeah,
And so, like, with everything that we're working at Spatial Labs, is to say, hey, like, Bauhaus is cool, but where's like Black House? Where is our design ethoses and design thinking methods and principles that we ask designers that are creating for the future
yeah.
to adhere to, right? We don't have that. So after, even in the midst of this, of COVID-19 and what's happening, that's one of the things that we're thinking about, right? The future is going to be volumetrics. The future is going to be immersive media. How do we, as a culture, establish a specific set of guidelines, not rules, but guidelines? So any web developer, any mobile developer, any, XR, VR developer, when creating experiences for, the culture, or when creating experiences for, Black, whatever, that we adhere to these principles, right? We collectively understand that all of our apps should only empower, not disband. That should be a principle.
Mm,
Like, when it's this should be a principle. These
yeah.
guidelines that inform our thinking in the way that the Wright brothers or Willie Beam, who created. Are you familiar with like Airstreams? They came out before I was born,
Airstreams,
but
no.
so they're these like wagons that, like, they're shaped like kind of like this. The wagons, they're like aluminum that,
Okay.
back in the days people used to uh they're like, yeah, like wagons. They're shaped. Volkswagen is popular for creating them. They're like these tin buses. They're not really buses, but they're
What are they for
smaller.
aerodynamics?
Yeah, they were Wally Beam, who was the founder and creator of Airstream. He was inspired through
Someone just
alchemy.
said mobile homes they're used for.
Yeah, the mobile homes. Yeah. So that system, all of these things are inspired by one set of design ethoses. So imagine what the future of our kids, and imagine the future of web developers, AR engineers, whatever it is that are going to create for that new future. Imagine if they had a set principle, or there was like, like a Black design movement or something, right? Where we
We need it,
took
man.
all
You're
these.
you're the one who's leading it right now, especially
Yeah.
as a Gen Zer, man. You're transcending even your own generation and reaching into the millennials and the baby boomers, and that speaks to me, man, as someone with the mission to close the racial wealth gap. That's the problem that I'm trying to solve. And when I'm thinking about empathy, I always ask myself like, who did I need when I was younger? And at the
Mm.
macro level, I think Black excellence, visibility to that. But then when I boil that down, it's like mentorship, financial literacy, access to capital, community, safe spaces. And I think that's probably the focus group, and how you talked about that's kind of a deficiency for the Black community, is having that testing ground. Is we need to have a safe space, safe rooms for Black entrepreneurs uh, to attend and to be a part of, where we can test and we can trust each other laterally with our ideas and with our businesses. So I think that's a community that I'm trying to build. I can tell that you're trying to build that, and we're
No,
all,
we are building.
yeah, I
You
mean, we
know.
are building it. You're absolutely right. Like, here we are leading this conversation right now. And from an inspirational standpoint, looking back at history is so important. Like, I'm inspired by people like Ida B. Wells, John H. Johnson, Earl Graves, who just passed away, Oprah Winfrey, because I'm a person who wants to create platforms and control narratives for Black culture and Black leaders. So if I was to ask you, who have been some of your influences or who inspires you? And I know Nipsey is a big person, so touch on that as well.
Yeah. I think, um in the past, I love referencing the past, but I also, sort of like referencing the future. And in that capacity, like, people like Nipsey, obviously Hove, and all the, we could go on, Jay Elect, we could go on and on about like the hip hop people. But I also think, like David Hammonds, who started his own like, art movement, Basquiat. I'm like very philosophical with my stuff, but also like, like Katherine Johnson, who just passed away, like who, I mean, obviously, if you don't know, you should just go watch Hidden Figures.
Google it.
And that's just part of half of the story, because half of the story of Hidden Figures was like completely made up. And she went through way more stuff than the movie even. But Rosa Parks, Dr. King, Malcolm, like all these people inspire me every single day because these people were philosophers, and I think those are the best leaders. The best leaders in the community are the philosophers, are the people that question the status quo and say, we don't do this simply because it's wrong. We do this because it stops our people from advancing. They're the people that like create methodologies and terminologies. And that's where we lack, right? The people that create equations. I was sitting home the other day and I feel that my presence and the reason why God and the universe has me on this earth is to serve humanity. But before I can serve humanity, I need to be able to serve my people first. And in that capacity, like growing up and being in science class, who were the people that I was taught about? I learned, ohms, joules, then you're learning about like Hawking, and you're learning about, Charles Darwin, all these people that created equations, formulas. How
Hmm.
many of those people look like me? How many people black? I'm learning all these scientific theories, Schrodinger equation when I was doing quantum mechanics and astrophysics. I'm learning about Michio Kaku. I'm learning about all these people. And then the only person I could raise my hand up is somebody that's not even considered to be he is a scientist, but he's a popular scientist in the same way that Carl Sagan was, and that's Neil deGrasse Tyson. And that's the only person I could mention. And I could say the only thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson has popularized is spaghettification, which refers to the when you're approaching a black hole, it continues to stretch all the atoms and molecules in your body into a very densely. It's like a thing,
You
but that's
getting
the
all
only thing,
scientific on me now.
right? So it's like to answer your question, I know that was like a long tangent, but I said I ought to say like I'm inspired by cultural leaders. I'm inspired by philosophers, and I named a couple. I'm always like bad with on the spot because there's so many. But yeah,
Yeah.
like Nipsey, Diddy, obviously everybody in hip hop, Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bambaataa, DJ Kool Herc, all these people, KRS One, these people that built hip hop, right? And because these people allowed me to be here today at 22 to be able to say, all right, in school we didn't have no equations, so how about we start making equations?
Yeah.
How about
No, we
we
got
say,
to. We
you
got to
know,
build our own infrastructure.
yeah, like KRS One said, KRS hip hop, right? How about we say hip equals hop? A high input production equals a high intellectual property equals a high outputted product. So the more intellectual property you own, the more control you have when you're creating an idea. And then we start there, and then we start creating, and then the Black Renaissance and the Black movement starts, right?
Yo, that's so deep. You know what that reminds me of is this dope methodology that Steve Stout has. He has a talk on YouTube called The Business of Culture. And I saw
Yes.
you have an Instagram post with Steve Stout, so I know that's your
Yeah,
guy.
he's another person too that I love, Steve Stout.
Yeah, man. And he says that product adoption is based on a tiered marriage between three things: culture, technology, and storytelling. And
Mhm.
I found that to be true because I've weaved um, that methodology into my work and my brand as a cultural leader or an influencer. But I think you've done the same thing, but more so towards the entertainment and music industry. So why is hip hop so important? You've named so many rappers that have inspired you. Why is hip hop important to your work specifically right now?
I apologize. I was getting the charger. Hip hop, is really important to me because it's enabled me to think the way that I think.
Mm,
I think about uh, being a kid from Ghana moving to America when he was 3 and settling in Compton, California. That gave us NWA, that gave us Easy E, that gave us Buddy, that gave us like Kendrick Lamar, and I mean we would the list, right? And had it not been for hip hop, I wouldn't be able to be me. I
mm.
wouldn't be able to be here right now talking about the things that there was a LL Cool J interview that I saw, and he was talking about how he was one of the OGs in hip hop to own his masters. And back then it wasn't a cool thing to talk about. He was
Mm.
like, back then you would talk about it and it wasn't like a pleasure, and now everybody wants to be on ownership. So I think my influence on hip hop has led me to even understand that we that created hip hop as a culture, right? We don't even know what hip hop is fully capable of. And that's the thing, right? Hip hop isn't just about, writing rhymes or producing beats or MCing. Hip hop is about technology. Hip hop is
Mhm.
about innovation. We just haven't seen hip hop is a baby still. We
Empathy.
haven't we didn't even understand. They didn't even the founders, the African founders, DJ Cohorts, all they didn't even understand what they were doing. They didn't
Mhm.
even understand. But that's the thing. We haven't looked at it in an equation way. We haven't looked at hip hop as a formula. Because if we understood that it was a formula, we could apply. What do you use a formula to do? Use a formula to solve problems,
Right.
right? So we can start thinking of hip hop because we already got one of the chakras down. Hip hop is used as a form of what? Meditation and healing, right?
Therapy.
So yeah, therapy. So you listen to a hip hop song and you feel good. You go, listen to whoever it is, you feel good.
Then you go on TikTok and you make a dance to it.
So we understood that of it, but that's one part of the equation we missing. It could be applied in a different, it's like the order of operations.
Yeah, yeah. PEMDAS.
Yeah, we on PIMDAS. We only on parentheses right now. We haven't
Jeez.
explored all these other ways. So I think, and maybe I'll find one, maybe I'll find two, of the other equations. But I just know in the context that I'm in, it's inspired me to know that wow, there's levels to this.
Mm.
There's really levels to this. And from a technological era, Grandmaster Flash also found it's like, the Infinity Stones. I don't know if you're a Marvel fan, but it's like, Thanos with all the Infinity Stones.
I was more with the X-Men. I kind of grew out of it after that. You showing your
Oh
age.
yeah. Yeah, you think about Grandmaster Flash, and he was a nerd. He was a geek, and taking an already existing product and re-engineering it, and now we have hip hop as we know it, right?
Mm,
Creating
mm.
the get down
Yeah.
part, and we're
So
looping it.
on the Black Mirror project you did on Facebook, you talked about a new era of diverse thinkers that will
Yes.
create groundbreaking technologies. So in this unique moment of history during COVID-19, social distancing, global economy has pretty much shut down. Everyone's locked in the lab. I think we have over 190, 130 people that are in this chat right now, and we're all looking for ways that we can disrupt the status quo, ways that we can create the next societal trend. What innovations do you see coming out of the social distancing era, and how is Spatial Labs taking advantage of this time?
Ah, wow. That's a very good question. I don't think I have the full answer to that because, for me to have an answer would be to say that I could predict the future, which I can't. Um, and as much as I love Back to the Future, we had this conversation 5 years from now and this will happen. No, I don't know. But what I can say is I think this era, the world moves so fast and the world is a real life representation of what Times Square is.
Hmm.
You go to like Times Square, it's like all these different lights.
Like
They,
advertisements, moving.
yeah,
Yeah,
they call it sensory overload, right? That's
mm,
the terminology. Our whole world, everything that even if you take a micro dose, you're still, in sensory overload. So what this time has showed Spatial Labs is that all it took was something this small, that started real small, that started with one person to change the whole entire world,
mm,
right? So if people didn't believe one person could change the whole world, now you really believe that one person could change the whole world, right? And that's in a negative way.
yeah,
Um, but in a positive way, it's shown us like, oh wow, this is going to be a beautiful time for creativity and
yeah,
innovation. Because what this period is doing is not that just creators are challenged, what the design thinking that we apply at ethos, which is to separate things into two buckets: aspirations, things that you
yeah,
want to see in the world, and necessities, things that you need to see in the world or are needed in the world. The universe is now the person split in those two buckets, right? So we're going to start seeing a lot of new startups that are based on necessity. The
mm,
aspiration, no one cares about that right now. People are dying and dying. Healthcare workers are dying, trying to save people. Nobody cares about I've designed this coffee mug with. No one wants to hear that right now. People want to see real innovation and real technology. So I think to that point, Spatial Labs had that moment of Times Square and all the possibilities of what could be created. And then it's like a freeze frame, everything stops.
Mm.
And then you get to see the world for what it really is, which is very, very small. We're a global village, and you get to really nitpick, what equations you need to focus on. Um, and
I
I
have some
think,
ideas of how augmented reality could be disruptive during a time of social distance. Has that
mhm.
crossed your mind at all?
Oh no, absolutely. Like I'll tell you, we're launching two major projects
Oh wait,
with
when are they
two
coming out?
can't announce real
Come on,
soon though.
man, right now with me.
No, 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 real soon. I can't. It's like I'm under oath,
No, I
and
get it. I get it.
I love the newness, right? I'm really
Offline.
yeah. I think announcements are like kind of oversaturated now. Like I just be like, man, people gonna see it, and they're gonna be like, oh wow. When people anticipate it, because a lot of people make people anticipate, that I feel like it takes away from the elusiveness, right?
Yeah.
Even like being a celebrity ain't what it used to be. Like you see people, oh, Justin Bieber, man, we see him every day on the street. It's not
Right.
what it
Well,
used.
because the speed of fame is accelerated so fast that people can be, global celebrities overnight because of social media. And people like over saturate social media with announcements. And I think that you and I both live and work by the philosophy of more moves, less announcements.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep,
I
yep.
think even Spatial Labs, and you mentioned the Facebook collab. Why was that important? Why was that announced? Why was it whatever? And with Facebook, you know, um, in the athletic space, right? I'm with Adidas, and being signed to a larger brand like that, obviously they give you like a deal, right? And so, using the hip hop knowledge and my creativity as a programmer, I tell people all the time, it's not that I know how to program. It's not that I know how to design. It's not that I understand architecture. It's my ability to wrap all those things I do in one digestible package to execute something, right? That's what attracts me. There are way far better programmers than me that have been studying this for way longer than I have. There are way better designers that have been studying this way longer than I have. But the ability to be authentic and be free. And so that tied into my partnership and collab with Facebook. I went in one day and I was like, hey, I've been consulting for 5 to 6 years. Yes, I've got a lot of checks, but one, people don't know what I'm actually creating. And two, I just feel like for the unconventional approach that I've approached this industry, as well as what I contribute to you, I would like a partnership.
Mm.
And I can talk about this because the deal's been done and I've been given permission to be able to talk about these things. And they were like, oh, that's not happening. It's never happened. You know, it's if you're a third party, because the thing was, all my life from every company, I get at least 2 to 3, every couple of months, Google hits me up at least 2 to 3 times. Hey, yo, you want to come to Google? All
Yeah.
these major tech companies are
LinkedIn,
my
LinkedIn requests, they send you all these type of DMs.
it's filled with those things. But my desire was, because I know what I represent for the culture and I need to stay there. Me in particular, this doesn't have to apply to everybody, just me. The most influence I have is as an external third party consulting, working with the internal. That's how like I become the spook who sat by the door, right? But they were like, okay, as a third party consulting agency, you are outside, we hire your services, and that's it. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, this project that we're working on right now, I'm not gonna finish it. Go find your other programmers, that are
Uh,
way far superior than me in programming to finish it. A couple days later, I get an email, and it's literally like, yeah, can you connect us with your legal team so we can so we can work on that? And talking to 14 to 15 different legal teams later, we came at a partnership of a third party consulting agency, and individual that has free reigns to work on whatever I create. When I create for Facebook or Instagram, anything that I create, I own the source code. They can choose to buy the source code, but they keep the ideas, I keep my code.
mm.
Never been done before by anybody, let alone a African, black kid, whatever it is. But I did that so that, I said to someone, I was like, I'm the only one that's had this. And they were like, you're right. Go, Iddris. Yeah, you're for the culture.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you don't get it. Let me say it again. I'm the only person that has that. And then they were like, because I was like, I want that next kid after this COVID-19 is over that has that best idea to go in there
Yeah.
and say that
Confidence.
they, yeah, to have the confidence to say that they want something like that. And for them to say no, because they will, for them to say no. And then the kids say, why? And they say, because it hasn't been done. Blah, blah, blah. And then for them, I just did it and
Yep.
I can't,
Hey,
you know?
sometimes say you gotta be like, hey, you made me, make another me. They can't do that.
Right? But no, we have to. Like, I love that line. I heard the saying they made Ho say, okay, so make
Make
another
another.
Ho. But I love that. But how about we actually mean it? How about we actually make another Hove, make another me, make another you? You know, it's not even like in a, oh man, I'm the only me. Yes, I'm the only me, 1000%. But the world needs to see another you too.
Yep, yep. And that's why stories are so important. Narratives, controlling the narrative, building a platform, creating visibility so people can see leaders and they can identify and shape their own future and the people that came before them. So I know that we started a few minutes late, so I want to extend this to about the 35-minute of the hour and open up for a few questions. We have questions
Okay.
flooding in throughout the
Oh, you are?
conversation, and I want to just see if I can get through a few of them for you, and then try to keep it short and sweet so we can get through as many as we can.
Can I see the question? Oh, it only shows you. Okay, yeah.
You might be able to if you hit the question drop down on the sidebar. You might be able to open up the questions.
Yeah, they're not showing me. They're like, no, we
Okay.
ain't showing them.
Um,
So
so this is kind of a entry question. How big is your team at Spatial Labs? What software do you use to create immersive experiences?
at Spatial Labs currently we have about five employees. We have, industrial engineers. We're expanding. We were actually about to open our 3,000 square foot office near LAX 3 days before, the order was decreed that, and it's like we could have businesses, but like when all the major tech companies are shut down, nobody's gonna, when Google opens up, when Facebook opens up, when Snapchat opens up, everybody else will follow suit. So yeah, we have about five employees. And then the second part of the question was, what do we use to create our immersive experiences? So we created a new program called the Spatial Engine. It's basically our own 3D engine that allows us to rapidly create AR experiences. Um, you know, when I used to do AR a lot back in like 2000, like 15, 16, 17, even with Nipsey, I created those assets in a game engine called Unity, which is actually a free engine. It's easy to learn depending on what you want to do. I know you can create AR experiences in Unity. So if the question was poised at, how can I get involved with AR? Unreal Engine, Unity Engine, these are two game engines that are free that allow you to create immersive AR experiences. The complexity of how you want to create that. For what we're doing and what we plan on doing with Spatial Labs, it didn't make sense for us to build on top of Unity because of how easily we want AR experiences to be a drag and a drop, right? You take a picture, you augment it, you 3D design it, and then you export it, and then anybody can use it. That's what we want to do. Goes back to creating like the black, design movement, making things super easy. So yeah, we have around 5 employees, 5 to 6 employees, and we created our own engine called the Spatial Engine, and that's why we're able to rapidly create these things. And we plan on expanding that later to the community when it's built. Mhm.
Dope, dope. So next question from Crystal is, how do you think other areas outside of other areas of art outside of music, such as photography, film, visual arts, can incorporate immersive technology and design thinking?
I guess I'll start with the latter, which is design thinking. I think it should be a requirement, right? Design thinking has no face. It's like a raw formula, right? Or a raw variable. It might be a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, right? Um, a 9 can have the value of whatever you want it to, right? A number can have a value. Yeah, let's just say the value is number. Um, you can assign whatever you want that to. So I think when we think of design thinking, when I hear it or when it's been used in the past, like a lot of people simply think it's like, oh, it's architecture or it's design. No, design thinking can happen to everything. In fact, if you're a professional photographer, you design think yourself, and you have to figure out what aspect ratio you're going to edit this image in. What are you going to shoot it in RAW and then import it into Photoshop and then edit it there? Are you going to import it into Pixel Matter and then edit it there? Are you just going to shoot in RAW and leave it as is? So the very act of your profession in itself causes you to design think. You just didn't probably know that that was a terminology that is used for what you create. So I mean, that's how I would answer it. I can't, again, I mean, I used to shoot. That's why I know, a couple terminologies. But no matter what you are, producer, engineer, whatever you are, there's a design thinking language for you. And if there isn't one, you can create one on your own. Every area of that includes technology can be design think. So my advice for anyone in landscaping, architecture, design, photography, music, or whatever, identify your needs. For your brand. If I'm an artist and I want to connect, what's my need? I want to connect with my artist in a different way. Okay, then start exploring solutions on how you can do that, how you can leverage AR to perform virtually, or maybe it's even you create something that we're popularizing now, which is like these digital Tamagotchis and action figures, and giving our fans them. How can you connect with your fan and give back in a way that requires you to have, limited and little resources. The reason why AR and VR is so amazing is because it's like free real estate. When you make an AR experience or VR experience, you can create what you want, how you want, control every single thing, rent free, rent free. It's yours. It's your digital canvas. So that's what I would answer to that question, and I hope that gives some context to whoever asked it.
Yeah, good question, Crystal. So this question is from Kwesi. He says, great work, Iddris. Is Spatial Labs working on anything to support education? And what will you be doing to support technological advancements in Ghana?
Yeah, I definitely knew from the name that he was from Ghana. Kwesi. I think that's like, I think Wednesday born or Thursday born. Or I might be wrong. Do not quote me on that. Um, uh, yeah, Spatial Labs has a huge focus on education. In fact, the partnership that I have with Facebook is mostly fixated around education. I had consulted in the past on UI, live streaming APIs, Spark AR, and optimizing the SDKs. And SDK stands for Software Developer Kits. But my main focus is education, right? I saw this happening before COVID happened. I literally pitched a whole learning device, a homeschooling learning AI powered homeschooling learning device. I
Wow.
can't reveal the details of it to them. Everything, this how we built it. Da, 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 da. At that time, there's a lot of things I can't disclose, but I pitched this and I was like, guys, wouldn't that have been now would have been the best time to release that. So education is a key focus of mine. The second question was related to Ghana. I mean, myself being Ghanaian, last year I announced that I was building a STEM tech hub in Ghana. And from the time of announcement to now, people have not heard anything about it. So it's like, oh, he's capped, he's not building that, or he stopped building it, or whatever. Again, like you were even saying, John, like earlier, I prefer to, when you see it, you see it. I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but we do have a lot of work as well as educative platforms that we're building for Ghana and more specifically Africa. And more details will be unveiled later this year. At this time, I don't desire to even share it because it's like it's so fire and people are just gonna. I want it to be like, wow, like he
Blow
didn't
everybody
forget.
away.
Yeah, he's so yes. We do have a focus on education with Spatial Labs with Ethos DNA, and look forward to a lot of great educative platforms, especially given that COVID-19 is affecting education now for Ghana.
Okay. Last two questions. This one is
Okay.
from Michael. He says, although you skipped college and went straight into the pros, how important is the pursuit of higher education for influencers ages 16 to 30 in regards to design thinking, as well as AR, VR?
Yeah, I think, and I last year I was saying this a lot that I've really disassociated with the term of education and started, with the term of exposure, right? And the two distinguishing factors that led me to that is understanding that, when I'm with education, I'm limited by what my educator can teach me, right? So if I'm only focused on learning through education, the moment that my educator becomes uneducated on a topic, I'm by default uneducated, because education hardly teaches you. Like, how many science teachers talk to their students and say, hey, like, this is the periodic table of elements: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, start listing everything, and then they say, and then guess what, guys? There's a whole nother list that hasn't been created because you guys are going to create it. No, they say these are the ones that have been created. These are the only ones
And
that
that's it.
exist,
That's the
and that's
box.
it. That's the box, right? So that's education. Exposure is about exposing. It's about learning in real time. It's about real time and learning. Information information of the current is already information of the past. The people that will go on and watch this webinar after it's done are already learning information of the past. It's super helpful, but it's already outdated immediately, depending on how you use it, right? So that's why we need to constantly learn. And then to continue like answering that question, I didn't go to school, and I literally, I was thinking about this morning when I got up to pray. I was like, whoa, like, to be you know an African kid that grew up in Compton, and not have gone to school and be super successful at 22. I felt so blessed, right? And it wasn't because, like, oh, I'm 22 and, I'm financially free, or I get to decide, when I wake up what I actually want to focus on, or whatever it might be. It wasn't to notice that. It was that, wow, to be an African kid who grew up in Compton, and I have created a financial and whatever, a financial and influential self based off of my intellect, right? Without going to school. And I do not know anybody around me or people around me that I can, it's like when I consult for a tech company, they're not like, and I rap and I make music, but they're not, even like with you, right? You're there for your intellect. There's a rarity of that we need to make the norm. Like, it's not like, oh, come on stage and perform for us and get a check. It's like, no, we value your mind. And sometimes I sit back and I'm like, whoa, for somebody that didn't go to school and still show people that, like, you can you know support higher education and everything. I did a commencement speech at NYU, and I was like, yo, it's important that you guys are graduating today. I didn't get to graduate. I know I'm here, but I didn't get to graduate. So I think it's important, and learning and exposure is important. And it's what you do with the information, not your degree, but what you choose to do with the degree, the life that you choose to live with that. So I mean, I'm the first person. We have a whole Instagram page called Exposure OS, where we post books monthly. Education is super, information exposure is super important to me. Having an educated and educative mind and experience is important to me. But I think we're going to see the highest level of people starting to, like, think for themselves and using what they learned in school in a completely different way. So I mean, that's all I will say on that. But
No,
I just hope that I continue to be a beacon for education and the educative mind, and applying what you learn in school in an unconventional way to make a unequivocal, impact in the world.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And one of the philosophies that I've lived by is a quote by Jim Rohn. It says, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune.
I've
And
heard
I'm
that quote.
a firm
Yes.
believer in that, bro, because that's been my whole journey of an entrepreneur, just self-education, YouTube videos, application. Those are the things that have gotten me ahead, not necessarily my college degrees. Um, and so last question is just a real fun question about personal. So we've all been on social distancing for, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, some of us even longer. You start learning a lot about yourself in quarantine as a human, as an entrepreneur. What's one thing you've learned about yourself through social distancing?
It's a very great question. Uh, hmm. I'll have to get back to you on that one. We've only been,
Stumped
social
you.
distancing for You know, I mean, because I've done so much self healing and self work, and I know, you know, with everything that you're working on, and you know, digital coaching, like that's something you also focus on, right? And like healing from trauma, and so I've done so much of that that like this COVID-19, like I wake up and I create things for people that has nothing to do with me. Like, you know, I feel like you know, the way that my life is set up, and I've worked so hard to get here. um I don't have to do anything. Like I can wake up and like be like, I'm just chilling today, but every day waking up 365 creating solutions for other people is something that I've always done. The self-healing of, you know, me resenting my father for so many years because of him, his absence, I've already healed from that, you know. Like I've always had a high respect for women, but I've even sharpened that blade even more. I've always done that. So me sitting now and I'm like, it's another day, you know, like from a me standpoint, but there are a lot of things that we need to fix in society. But I think I mean that I want to cook more instead of buying, you know, food outside so much, because I'm a great
Yeah,
cook,
sharpen
but
your culinary craft.
I'd be so lazy, man. Like, you know, I'm like, the other day I wanted to make squash lasagna, and I was like, you know what? I mean, I could just drive 2 miles down real quick and like, you know, not. But yeah, I think that's something I want to improve on. Eating in more, and instead of taking out, or you know, take out. Because takeout will take you out,
Oh,
you know,
well, it will
in the
take your
long
bank
term.
account all the way to the bank and back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think my food habits, not I overwork myself. That's another thing. Getting more sleep. Like I just, man, you can't be up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like that's
Yeah,
not, you know. So
yeah.
that's another thing.
You got that 22-year-old energy. I used to have that too. My
You know
my
what?
shit's gone.
You know what, bro? A lot of people say that to me, and you know, I don't know how I feel about it, but it's like, even like, I don't drink coffee. I've never drunk coffee a day in my life.
I
Like
didn't
I don't
either until I hit
smoke.
30, and now I'm sitting here with these. I'm
That's what
trying
I'm
to.
saying. What is it? What is it that
It's just
does your
like
body just start getting weaker, or like are you not able to like how does it start? Because I know it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? But
yeah. I mean,
what?
it's definitely gonna happen, and that's a conversation for another webinar to
Okay,
talk
all
about
right.
energy distribution and how that works, physiology. But thank you, bro. This was dope, man. I appreciate you coming
I
on.
appreciate it.
Let's keep building, bro.
Yeah, I mean, you have my info, and for everybody, you know, that wants to possibly reach out to Spatial Labs on a collaboration or whatever. You know, space. You can visit Spatial Labs, see what we're doing. You can follow me on Instagram. See what you don't even have to follow me. Just email me if you have a request. And we do our best to go through every single email. We get no cap. We get at least 400 to 500 emails a day, and that's me and my team like constantly looking through, treating each of those equally. It takes time, but we do our best to get to everybody. And yeah, I look forward to building, bro. And thank you all for tuning in. And COVID-19, the era that we're in right now is a very time sensitive one. So for everyone even joining, I thank you all for taking time out of your busy days away from family and everything to even, you know, be here. So bro, really, I really thank you, and for everybody tuning in, I thank you all for sharing your time. I constantly stay, you know, filled with humility that people even want to listen to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
So thank you
Yeah,
for
man.
real.
That's dope, bro. So, in closing, you guys take a screenshot of this right now. Iddris and I, you can put this on your IG stories, your Instagram, shout us out. The next virtual meetup will be on Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern. Check out my page to see who that is with. Again, follow the Digital Coaches program at Digital Coaches. Follow me at One Johnny Bailey. Follow Iddris at Iddris Sandu. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Enjoy your weekends.
I got a quick question. Not to like cut you. So are the webinars going to be? Will people be able to view it from the same link?
Yes, there will be an
So I can just
email.
do it
Good question. There will be email with the recording following
okay,
the webinar. I'll go out in about an hour or two, and then
got
it
it.
will expire. So if you don't get it within an hour or two, it's gone.
Poof, like that, it's gone. All right, thank you all so much. Peace.
All right, guys. Peace. Talk soon, bro.
Peace. Yes, sir.